Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I am Dr. Supradip Das, Assistant Professor at the Department of Design, IIT Guwahati, and this is the 22nd lecture of the course Introduction to Toy Design. In this lesson, we will begin by framing play as a right, not an optional activity. We will introduce the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child as an ethical foundation for toy design. Through this, we will understand why access to play matters for all children, especially those with special needs. The lesson will then clarify what we mean by special needs, moving away from medical levels toward participation and support. We will look at how special needs are categorized and why variability within these categories is important for designers to understand. Next, we will distinguish spatial needs from spatial educational needs, focusing on how learning contexts shape experience. Finally, we will examine toy examples that respond to specific needs, highlighting adaptation as a valid design strategy. The emphasis throughout is on understanding context before designing solutions. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to think differently about toy design responsibility. You will be able to apply a rights-based perspective when evaluating whether a toy enables or restricts play. You should be able to recognize different types of barriers: physical, sensory, cognitive, or social, that affect access to play. With the help of case studies, you should be able to analyze how toys respond to specific needs through design choices. You should also be able to justify toy adaptations not as spatial add-ons but as meaningful design responses. Most importantly, this lecture prepares you to move from responding to specific needs to asking how toys can be designed to accommodate diversity from the start. This understanding will directly support your future studio work and the next lecture on inclusive and universal design. Historically, disability was viewed as a personal limitation. The social model changes this perspective. Disability occurs when environments are designed narrowly. A child who cannot grip a thin object is not incapable. The object is exclusive. A child who cannot interpret rapid flashing feedback is not inattentive. The interaction is mismatched. This shift is critical for designers. We stop fixing users and start fixing design assumptions. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, or UNCRC, is a global human rights framework. It recognizes children not as dependents or future adults, but as individuals with rights today. The UNCRC shifts how we think about childhood. Children are rights holders. Governments, institutions, designers, and societies are duty bearers. This is important because access to development, participation, and well being is not optional, it is a responsibility. For children with special needs, this framing is especially critical. Their exclusion is often normalized or invisible. The UNCRC makes exclusion visible as a rights issue, not a personal limitation. This lecture uses the UNCRC as an ethical lens, not a medical one or a charitable one. Several articles within the UNCRC together build a strong case for play as a fundamental right. Article 31 is the most explicit. It recognizes every child's right to rest, relax, play, and participate in cultural and creative activities. This position is not a play as a reward, but as an essential part of childhood. Article 29 expands this idea by redefining the purpose of education. Education is not only about academic achievement. It meant to develop a child's personality, talents, abilities, and sense of responsibility. Play becomes a key medium through which this holistic development can happen. Article 13 focuses on children's right to express what they think, feel, and learn. This expression does not have to be verbal or written. It can happen through drawing, making, movement, storytelling, or play. For many children, especially those with special needs, play is their primary language of expression. Article 12 goes one step further. It states that children's views on matters affecting them must be taken seriously. This challenges adult assumptions about what children need or enjoy. In play and toy design, it asks us to listen to children's experiences, not override them. Article 15 recognizes children's right to form groups and interact socially. Play is often the context in which friendships, cooperation, and belonging are built. Together, these articles show that play is about dignity, voice, learning, and participation, not just entertainment. Let's talk about Article 31 a little more in detail. It explicitly states that every child has the right to play. This includes rest, leisure, recreation, and participation in cultural and creative activities. This right applies to all children without exception, including children with disabilities and special needs. Importantly, the article does not define how children should play. It recognizes diversity in play experiences. For children with special needs, access to play is often limited by design, not by lack of interest, not by lack of ability. Barriers may be physical, sensory, social, or attitudinal. When play is inaccessible, a fundamental right is denied. This makes play-based exclusion a rights issue, not a developmental accident. Across many countries, Article 31 of the UNCRC is translated into national and regional play policies. These policies differ in structure, but they share a common intention, making play possible in everyday life. In the UK and Ireland, national play strategies explicitly recognize play as essential to children's well-being. They focus on creating child-friendly environments rather than prescribing specific toys or activities. In Australia, policies emphasize inclusive and accessible play spaces. There is a strong focus on outdoor play, risk-balanced safety, and participation of children with disabilities. Across several European nations, play is also linked to public health. Play is seen as supporting mental health, social inclusion, and community cohesion. Despite contextual differences, the commonalities are striking. Policies consistently emphasize safe and welcoming environment. Safety is treated as enabling play, not restricting it. Another shared focus is access. Play rights are considered meaningful only when all children can participate. It includes children with disabilities and special needs. Where policies differ is in implementation, funding, infrastructure, and cultural priorities. But for designers, the message is consistent. Play exclusion is not accidental. It is something systems and designs can either reinforce or challenge. India is a signatory to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, having ratified it in 1992. This means that India has formally committed to upholding all the rights articulated in the UNCRC, including Article 31, the right to rest, leisure, play, and participation in cultural life. Unlike some countries, India does not have a single clearly articulated national play policy. However, this does not mean that the right to play is absent from Indian policy frameworks. Instead, play is embedded across broader child rights, development, and education policies. The key framework is the National Policy for Children, 2013. The policy adopts a rights-based approach and recognizes children's right to survival, development, protection, and participation. While play is not always named explicitly, it is understood as part of holistic development and meaningful participation in childhood. India has also established statutory bodies such as the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights or NCPCR. The role of such institutions is to monitor, protect, and advocate for all child rights guaranteed under the Constitution and the UNCRC. This includes addressing environments that deny children opportunities for rest, leisure, and play. In the Indian context, play is often constrained by academic pressure. lack of safe space, and social attitudes toward productivity. Children with disabilities or special needs are particularly vulnerable to exclusion from play. Even without a dedicated play policy, India's rights framework makes it clear that exclusion from play is not neutral. The term special needs is often used loosely and sometimes uncomfortably. So it's important to clarify what we mean by it in this lecture. Special needs is an umbrella term that refers to children who require additional support to participate fully in everyday activities, including play and learning. These needs are not always linked to a medical diagnosis. They may arise from physical, cognitive, sensory, emotional, or social differences. Importantly, special needs are not always permanent. Some needs are temporary, such as those arising from illness or injury. Others are situational, shaped by environment, access, or resources. Instead, this definition shifts the focus away from what is wrong with the child. Instead, it asks what kind of support are needed for participation. This perspective is critical when we begin thinking about toy design. One of the biggest mistakes in designing for special needs is assuming there is a single typical user. There is no average child with special needs. Children differ widely in abilities, preferences, energy levels, and play styles. Even within the same category, experiences can be very different. Two children with the same diagnosis may interact the toy in completely different ways. Needs also vary in intensity. Some children may require minor adaptations. Others may need significant support to engage in play. Many children experience overlapping needs across categories. This variability makes one-size-fits-all solutions ineffective. For designers, this means categories are starting points, not design answers. They help us understand patterns, but not individuals. To better understand special needs, researchers and educators have proposed broad categories. The classification used here draws from educational and child development literature, including works by Klisheva and others, who categorize children based on the type of support they require, not simply diagnosis. Let's briefly understand each category. Physical disabilities. Physical disabilities include conditions that affect movement, strength, coordination, or motor control. These children may face barriers related to grip, reach, balance, or endurance during play. Visual impairments range from low vision to blindness. For these children, toys relying heavily on visual cues may exclude them unless adapted through texture, sound, or contrast. Hearing impairments affect how children perceive sound. Toys dependent on audio feedback may not work unless alternative sensory feedback is provided. Speech and language disorders affect a child's ability to express or understand language. These children may benefit from toys that support communication. Intellectual disabilities involve differences in cognitive functioning and adaptive behavior. Play may need simpler rules, repetition, and slower pacing. Learning disabilities such as dyslexia or dyscalculia affect specific learning processes. Autism spectrum conditions involve differences in social interaction, communication, and sensory processing. Attention-related conditions such as ADHD affect focus, impulse control, and activity levels. Emotional and behavioral disorder involve challenges in emotional regulation or behavior. Play can act as a safe space for expression and calming. Finally, chronic illness and developmental delays may affect stamina, timing, or developmental milestones. Play opportunities may need flexibility and reduce physical or cognitive load. Across all categories, one thing is constant. There is no typical child within any category, and design must respond to needs, not labels. Special educational needs, or SEN, is a more specific term. It refers to children who require additional support in educational contexts. A child may have special educational need with or without a diagnosed disability. For example, a child may struggle with attention, language, or learning pace in school settings. SEN is often context dependent. A child may cope well at home but struggle in a classroom. This means the environment plays a large role in defining SEN. From a design perspective, this is important. It reminds us that needs emerge from interaction between the child and the system. Toys, especially play-based learning tools, can either increase pressure or reduce it. Many standard toys are designed with assumed abilities. They assume certain attention spans, motor skills, or sensory tolerance. For children with special educational needs, these can lead to frustration or withdrawal. The toy may not be wrong, but it may be mismatched. This is where adaptation and redesign becomes essential. Design can simply interaction, adjust feedback, or slow down pacing. Importantly, this does not mean reducing challenge or engagement. It means making play accessible and meaningful. Designing for SEN requires moving away from labels. Instead, designers must focus on how children engage, struggle, and succeed through play. We will now move into case studies of toys designed for children with specific needs. But before we begin, it is important to clarify how we are evaluating them. Although each toy may be marketed for one particular condition, the difficulty it addresses is rarely exclusive to that condition. Children are not diagnosed. They experience combinations of participation barriers. For example, a child with ADHD may struggle with emotional regulation, and a child with autism may experience challenges with speech or communication. So instead of looking at the toys as solutions for labels, we will look at them as responses to functional needs. We will instead ask, what barrier to participation does this toy reduce? What ability does the play mechanic support? This allows us to understand the design principle behind the toy, not just the category it is sold under. So the goal of this section is not to memorize which toy belongs to which disorder, but to understand how play can enable access, regulation, expression, and interaction. Children with physical, visual, or hearing impairments often face barriers when toys rely heavily on a single sense. Toys that depend only on vision, fine motor, precision, or sound cues can unintentionally exclude them. For these children, play needs to be multisensory, accessible, and exploratory. The visually and hearing impaired activity center responds to these needs. The toy is designed as an activity-based setup that integrates tactile, visual, and movement-based interactions. It does not rely on sound as the primary mode of feedback. Different surfaces, textures, and movable elements allow children to explore through touch and motion. High contrast visual elements support children with low vision. The interaction is intuitive and does not require verbal instructions. The toy is designed to encourage independent exploration as well as assisted play. Children can engage with it their own pace and ability level. There is no fixed sequence or correct way to play. This makes the activity center flexible across a range of physical and sensory abilities. Here, design shifts from compensating for a disability to enabling meaningful participation in play. This tool looks like a simple whistle, but its design is very intentional. Speech begins with breath control. Many children with speech delay struggle to coordinate airflow, jaw position, and lip closure. The horn produces sound both when inhaling and exhaling. So the child succeeds immediately when even with weak airflow. The wide mouth opening reduces motor precision demand. This lowers frustration and allows repeated attempts. Through repetition, children begin to voluntarily control breath, support, and airflow. This is foundational for producing phonemes like ma, ba, and pa. So the toy is not teaching speech directly. It is teaching the physical prerequisites for speech. The play action, blow, hear, sound, and repeat builds oral motor strength through motivation. The toy distinguishes exercise as play, which supports dignity and right to play principles. Speech is not only muscle strength, it is also awareness. Many children cannot position their tongue because they cannot feel where it is. The vibrating tip provides tactile sensory input to lips, cheeks, and tongue. This increases awareness of oral structures. When awareness improves, control improves. The vibration also reduces jaw fixation, a common barrier in articulation. The child explores the tool voluntarily. So therapy becomes exploration rather than instruction. This supports participation rather than compliance. The toy therefore helps build speech through sensory mapping of the mouth. Children with ADHD often seek movement to regulate their nervous system. When movement is suppressed, attention drops. The stretchy ring provides continuous resistance-based motion. The hands move, but cognitive attention stays available. The feedback is tactile and predictable, so the brain receives sensory input without cognitive load. This is known to reduce disruptive behavior while maintaining engagement, not as instruction but as regulation. The toy works because it matches sensory need, not behavior expectation. Breathing is one of the most powerful regulation tools for autistic children, but verbal instruction like take a deep breath rarely works. This blow toy kit converts breathing into visible action. The child blows and the object moves. The result is immediate and predictable. Because the goal is external, the child practices regulation without being told to regulate. Gradual resistance builds control over airflow, and controlled airflow lowers physiological arousal. So the toy is not teaching breathing, it is creating a reason to breathe rhythmically. Hence, here play becomes regulation. Some children seek sensory stimulation repeatedly. Without structure, this becomes disruptive behavior. The whistle transforms sensory seeking into structured interaction. Sound only occurs when breath is controlled. So stimulation becomes self-generated and predictable. Predictable input reduces anxiety. Repetition anchors attention and reduces wandering behavior. Here, the child is not prevented from sensory seeking, but the need is redirected safely. And hence, the design respects the behavior instead of suppressing it. Similarly, this breathing board, marketed for emotion regulation, converts breathing into a visible motor activity. The child traces the path while breathing. Motor rhythm synchronizes with breath rhythm. These lowers physiological arousal. The visual path acts as an external regulator. Instead of instruction, the toy provides structure. The child experiences calming rather than being told to come, making regulation an embodied interaction. Children with cognitive disabilities may find complex rules or abstract tasks overwhelming. Toys for this group need clarity, predictability, and emotional safety. The cognitive affective therapy in a bag is a strong example. This toy uses a soft bag with tactile and visual elements hidden inside. Children explore the contents by touch, guessing, and discovering what is inside. The play does not demand a correct answer. Instead, it encourages curiosity, memory, and association. The structure is simple, but the experience is rich. Children can repeat the activity multiple times without pressure. This repetition supports cognitive engagement and confidence. The toy allows children to lead the interaction, not follow instructions. By removing performance expectations, the design supports thinking through exploration. It shows how cognitive engagement can emerge naturally through play. The cognitive affective therapy in a bag is also a great example of emotion regulation. Children with emotional or behavioral challenges may struggle with regulation, anxiety, or impulse control. For these children, play can either escalate emotions or help regulate them. Its soft materials and enclosed format create a sense of containment and safety. The act of reaching in and exploring is slow and grounding. There is no time, pressure, no winning or losing. The toy invites focus and tactile engagement. This can have a calming effect on the child because the toy does not demand verbal explanation. It allows expression without language. Children can engage when they feel ready and withdraw when they need to. The design respects emotional boundaries. It does not overstimulate or provoke. Here, play functions as a space for emotional regulation, not correction. Children with learning disabilities may struggle with reading, writing, or symbol recognition. Traditional learning tools can create anxiety around mistakes. The Wiggly Words toy addresses this through playful interaction with letters. Instead of fixed alphabets, letters are designed to be flexible and manipulable. Children can bend, twist, and arrange them freely. This removes the pressure of correct spelling. Letters become objects to explore, not symbols to fear. The toy encourages hands-on engagement with language. Children learn through movement and play rather than instruction. Mistakes are reframed as part of the exploration by changing how letters are experienced. The toy changes how learning feels. This shows how toy design can support learning without replicating classroom stress. Children with developmental delays may reach milestones at different times. Toys for this group must respect varied pacing and readiness. The balance board maze is relevant here. Its open-ended design allows children to engage at different levels of complexity. Some children may focus only on standing or balancing. Others may attempt navigating the maze fully. There is no fixed goal that must be achieved. Progress is self-defined and incremental. The toy encourages coordination, focus, and persistence, but it does not demand them all at once. This makes it suitable for children developing skills gradually. The same toy can remain relevant over time. Here, design supports development without comparison or pressure. This bead maze can often be seen in play therapy clinics and is an excellent tool to develop concentration through sustained, predictable interaction. The bead maze creates a continuous goal-directed activity. There is no winning or losing, only continuation. The child tracks movement visually while coordinating hand motion. This integrates motor planning and attention control. The colored beads are intentionally distinct and grouped. Color acts as a visual anchor, helping the child track movement along the wire. Instead of searching randomly, the child anticipates where the bead will go next. The wire paths also vary in complexity. Some curves are simple, others cross or change direction. This creates graduated challenge, not difficulty, but engagement. The child must slow down at tighter curves and plan movement, which increases sustained attention time. Importantly, there is no failure state. The bead always moves forward, so the child remains in a continuous loop of action and correction. The toy, therefore, trains focus through prediction and rhythm, no instruction or reward. Because the visual structure guides behavior, attention emerges naturally instead of being demanded. The repetitive loop strengthens endurance of focus. Unlike instruction-based tasks, engagement emerges intrinsically. So the toy trains attention through rhythm and continuity rather than demand. Many children cannot verbally explain feelings, but they can manipulate objects. This may include children who are nonverbal, selectively mute, autistic, or those who experience emotional shutdown when asked direct questions. When asked, "How do you feel?" the cognitive and social demand can be overwhelming. But when the question shifts to a toy, expression becomes safer. Mibi's face can be changed into different emotional expressions. Instead of asking the child about themselves, the adult asks about the character. Instead of asking the child, "How do you feel?" the adult asks, "How does Mibi feel?" This removes personal pressure. The soft body provides comfort, while the face becomes a communication tool. The child externalizes internal emotions onto the toy. Once externalized, the emotion becomes discussable. The toy acts as a mediator between internal state and social conversation. So expression becomes indirect and therefore safer. The child is still playing, but emotional literacy is developing. This game is an example to practice emotion regulation. It uses a familiar structure like Go Fish. Go Fish is a classic, widely known card game, often used as an introduction to card play and strategy for children aged 4 and up. Here, familiarity lowers social anxiety. Each card introduces a feeling or coping strategy. So, emotional discussion happens inside gameplay, not conversation. Children participate because they are playing, not being questioned. Turn taking builds communication safely. The toy embeds therapy inside normal social activity, and the child retains dignity because they are still just playing a game. And play creates a safe space. Worry Boo, on the other hand, turns emotions into characters. Instead of I am worried, the child interacts with a character that worries. This creates emotional distance, and distance reduces defensiveness. The child comforts the toy but psychologically comforts themselves. The narrative format allows rehearsal of coping strategies. Through storytelling, the child learns emotional processing without direct confrontation. The toy, therefore, transforms internal anxiety into relational play. Social understanding is difficult to teach through instruction alone. This game presents real life social situations. Instead of right or wrong answers, it offers possibilities. Children think, predict, and discuss outcomes, and because the answers are negotiable, participation increases. They learn consequences through conversation, not correction. This builds reasoning about emotions rather than memorizing rules. The toys supports learning through shared thinking. It trains judgment, not obedience, which can then be applied to real life situations. Many autistic children struggle not with imagination, but with fear of making mistakes. The Wiki Sticks material is soft, bendable, and endlessly modifiable. Nothing is permanent. Because the shape can always be changed, failure disappears. This is critical as anxiety reduces participation before play begins. But importantly, tactile resistance of the material also provides regulating sensory input. So the child is both expressing and regulating simultaneously. The toy does not demand social interaction, but it allows communication through creation and participation without pressure. The examples we have just seen are all responses to specific special needs. They show how toys can be adapted or designed thoughtfully to support particular physical, sensory, cognitive, or emotional requirements. This approach is important. It allows designers to respond directly to unmet needs and barriers in play. It acknowledges that standard toys often exclude unintentionally. At the same time, it is not the only way to design for children with special needs. Another approach is to design toys that do not require adaptation in the first place. This is where inclusive design and universal design principles come in. Instead of designing for a specific category, those approaches ask, how can a toy be designed so that many children can use it in different ways? How can flexibility, choice, and accessibility be built into the design from the start? In this lecture, we focused on rights, definitions, and design responses for specific needs. In the next lecture, we will expand this thinking. In the next lecture, we will look at how inclusive and universal design approaches aim to reduce the need for spatial adaptations altogether. This shift from responding to needs to designing for diversity is an important evolution in toy design thinking. See you all in the next lecture. Keep the spirit of play in everything you do.